All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who rule well, and also honor and salutations to those of you who are of the hopeful elect. I like it. And are out there teaching the word in sincerity and truth. All right, so today I got a quick one. This is something I was thinking about earlier, and I jotted a couple of things down that I wanted to touch on, and that is the benefits of the Sabbath. And I'm going to touch on some things that I've said before in another show about discipline, but it's it was on my mind, so I feel like why not do another one, right? So I can't, normally I like to take this time to say what brought the show to mind, but I can't really remember what I was thinking about that sparked the thought. But I'm always thinking about ways to I'm always thinking about ways to discipline myself, and I find that when you're trying to keep yourself from doing something that you love, or when you're trying to keep yourself from doing something that you enjoy or that brings you pleasure, when you deliberately do that, that's how you exercise your discipline muscle. And that's the benefit of the Sabbath, right? Because on the Sabbath, the scripture, matter of fact, what is it, Exodus 20, let's see. Exodus 20:8, it says, "Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy," right? And I believe this is why we were told this, or one of the reasons why one of the Lord's many reasons telling us to keep the Sabbath is to use that time to refrain from things that bring you pleasure, refrain from some people on the Sabbath they won't eat, and different things like that. And it's a constant exercise and discipline. Every week you're at least taking a day to work out that discipline muscle, if you will, right? And the reason why I'm so comfortable with saying it is because I'm sure brothers can attest to this. When you're on a Sabbath, right, there's things that you should refrain from. Matter of fact, let me go to, there's certain things that you should refrain from when you're keeping the Sabbath, right? You're not supposed to do any work. You can't, cook. You shouldn't be, laying with your wife. So there's certain things that you should, refrain from during the Sabbath. And let me just read this real quick. This is Isaiah 58:13. It says, "If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor seeking thine own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken." Right, so you should keep from things that pleasure you, right? Sex, eating. Jake like to eat. I mean, and not like, you don't necessarily have to fast on the Sabbath. I try to, every once in a while, but you don't have to do that. But if you're like a snacker, right, or if you're a drinker, try to refrain from those things on the Sabbath. And what I wanted to say was, I noticed that after 24 hours of that, right, it's almost like imagine doing something for 24 hours straight, right? Anything, like sewing or writing or doing something for 24 hours straight. When you go to the 25th hour, that's still on your mind, right? So I noticed after, refraining from those pleasurable things on the Sabbath, the next day I find myself going, oh shit, and like, because I'm thinking it's it's still the Sabbath. And the reason why that's important, right, is because what that takes, right, is what they call presence of mind, right? There's an old saying that to have a presence of mind, and that means being aware of what you're doing day to day, right? Matter of fact, let me see, what is that? Matthew 6:22, it says, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, the whole body shall be full of light, right? So an eye being single is what? That just means being ultimately focused, having an extreme focus, being present throughout the day, right? And I try to, say this prayer, every day before I leave the house, that the Lord keep me cognizant and keep me present and keep me. I like to say it this way: keep me out of cruise control. I like to kick out of cruise control and be deliberate in my actions, and not just let my lusts and my flesh, run my body, but actually be a thinker, Let me see. I was thinking of something while I was saying that. It escapes me now, but that's the benefit, of the Sabbath. You're aware. Oh, that's the scripture I was looking for. Let me see. Ephesians 5:16. Actually, let me go up in here. I think it's 15 is what I'm looking for. Yeah. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil, right? So this word circumspectly, we know, means to look around. But let's do this, right? Boom. Exactly, accurately, diligently, right? So in order to do these things, right, in order to be diligent, right, and circumspect and perfect, right, you have to always be aware, right? You never can, sometimes your day gets busy, right, and you get lost in the thoughts of the day, right? Okay, what's next? What do I got to do next? All right, boom, 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 boom. And when you're so deep in thought, sometimes your flesh takes over, and your flesh is driving the vehicle. And then you might see a chick at your job, and she's married, and you start talking to her, being fresh, or you might be checking her out or something like that. That's because your flesh is driving the vehicle. But when you're present, right, when you're aware, okay, I'm having this fleshly desire, right? Now, I know I'm having this desire. I know I'm not supposed to be doing this, so let me stop doing this. Being present, helps you to control that lust, right? And the Sabbath is, the perfect day to get you back in that mind frame. You come to the end of the week, you've been loose all week, and that Sabbath kind of kicks you back into gear and gets you back focused. It, brings you back, to zero point, if you will, to recalibrate, getting back focused on what you're supposed to be doing, So what I was gonna do was going to, I'll read this. I was thinking about not reading it, but I'll go to this. This is Exodus 16, right? So in this story, Israel had, let me say it this way: the Most High rained down quail and manna from heaven for Israel to eat, and the commandment was for them to go every morning and get some food, right? But then when the sixth day came, to get twice as much, so that they wouldn't have to work on the Sabbath. So I want to start somewhere in the middle of that. That way, so I gave the rundown so I could start a little bit lower. So this is Exodus 16 and 21. It says, and they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating, and when the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the sixth day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. And he said to them, this is that which the Lord hath said, tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that ye will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up to the morning, and Moses bathed, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field, right? 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none, right? So reading on, it says, and it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? So I was thinking about this, right? And I said, so what would make them, what would be some reasoning for them to go out and try to gather on the 7th day, on the Sabbath, right? One, they might have been doing what? Procrastinating, right? Putting it off and say, I don't feel like doing it today. Let me do it tomorrow, right? Or they could be being greedy, where they did go and gather twice as much on the 6th day, but then they was like, you know what, I want a little bit more. So they went out and tried to gather some more, right? So those two things, right? One is putting things off till tomorrow, procrastination, if you will. And the second one is greed, right? Both of these things, which can be controlled by increasing your level of discipline, right? And the Sabbath, again, is the perfect day to do that, right? And you shouldn't be working on the Sabbath. Let me say that. You shouldn't be working on the Sabbath. But some have jobs where, they don't have a choice, right? And it's just what it is, right? But what I would try to do on those days that, I have to work on the Sabbath, I would try to fast and, go without eating and drinking on that day to, try to make amends for the fact that I'm working on the Sabbath. Because again, that day is the perfect day. And then you can, if you fast, right, on a regular basis, even if you do something as simple, a little easier, like water fasting, right, or mono fasting, which is when you eat only one food throughout the day, right, and you don't, or for however long you decide, whatever the duration is. When you do that, it gives you that, it puts you in that same mind frame where, because you have to be present, you have to be aware of what you're doing, or else you might, if let's say if you're on a mono fast and you want to eat, I don't know, you want to go 7 days, you want to only eat mangoes, right? If you're not present, you know, at the job, they might have some free bagels or donuts sitting out. If you're not present and you're allowing your flesh to drive the vehicle, you'll go and grab a donut, you know. So fasting and the Sabbath first and foremost, but then fasting. This is why we were commanded to fast and pray when the Lord left from us, because the fasting and the prayer, it takes effort. It takes being present to do those things, you know. I wanted to read a couple more and show you something else really quick. And let me say this as a disclaimer. You know, I this is a topic that's near and dear to me, because I don't have very much discipline. You know, I'm not teaching this to say that I'm the I'm the most disciplined guy. I mean, if you saw me and you saw my stomach, you would know that I'm not the most disciplined guy. You know, but I want to be. You know, I want to be, because I know that, you know, my lack of discipline is what's, you know, it hinders my day to day. You know, I'll say it like that. I don't want to brag or anything like that, but it becomes a hindrance, man. You know, when you just every piece of food you see, you want to eat it, and, you know, and then I get full. And then I get lazy because I'm fucking stuffed with all kinds of garbage, you know. And then, you know, I don't want to get up and read, and I don't want to get up and do a show because I'm, you know, just stuffed like a damn turkey. You know, so, you know, I'm not teaching this to say that, you know, I'm the most disciplined. I just want to be, you know. You know, anything better than what I've been is a step ahead, you know. But let me go here, right? So it says this is 1 Corinthians 7:5. It says, defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time. Now this is speaking to you know, marriage. And, you know, defraud not one another meaning, you know, if your partner wants to, you know, get some tail, you know, you gotta give it up, you know. It says that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency, right? So, you know, Satan knows what your weaknesses are. He knows. if it's your kids and, you know, you loving on your babies. Esau, but Satan will get you in that way. If your thing is, you know, you like Oreos, then Satan will get you that way. You know, next thing you know, you done had a whole bag of Oreos. Or if you know, your thing is women, then Satan will get you that way. Satan knows what to do to pull you away from the faith, or to try to tug you away from the faith. And he says this, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency, right? So this word incontinency is an important word. So let's go to it, right? Look it up, see what it means. Right? Incontinency, right? Want of self-control, incontinence and temperance, right? But when you go to the root, right? The root word, without self-control, right? Intemperate, right? So if you, matter of fact, I didn't do this, but let me do this, right? Incontinence. Oh yeah, this makes sense. Urinary incontinence, probably pissing on yourself, right? Urine leaks, yeah. Urine leaks when you exert pressure on your bladder by coughing, right? So, in other words, you can't control, you know, the urine flow, right? But what I want to do, lack of voluntary control over urination or defecation, lack of self-restraint. You see? So if you're incontinent, right, or if you have incontinence, you lack self-control, right? The scriptures also talk about being wanton, right? Which also means undisciplined, right? Let me see. I'll do it here real quick, and then I'll look for the scripture that says it. Of cruel or violent action, deliberate or unprovoked, sexually unrestrained, or having many casual sexual relationships, right? So that's another form of a lack of discipline, right? Immodest, indecent, shameless, unblushing, unchaste, right? All these things speak to a lack of self-control, right? So let's do this. What was I reading here? No, I'm going to go to that one next. So I'll go back over here, and then I'll put in this. Oops. Boom. This is, I can read any one of these, but let me see. Boom. James 5:5. Ye have lived in pleasure on earth, and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter, right? That reminds me of, what does that remind me of? Let me open up another one. As in the days of Noe. Right, Luke 17:26. As it was in the days of Noe, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noe entered into the ark, right? So they were all about having a good time and partying and, being in jest, right? So the scriptures say that this day would be the same way. A bunch of people with a lack of discipline, right? And it's like I can't stress enough how important it is, and I say it in a space or from the perspective of not being as good at it as I'd like to be, not being as disciplined as I'd like to be, and seeing where I fall short in my life, So I'm speaking not from a perspective of I'm the most disciplined and this is how you should be, but I'm not as disciplined as I'd like to be, and seeing where I could grow just from simply trying to buckle down and discipline myself. It's important, man. I can't stress it enough, right? So where am I at here, right? So going back to James, let me go up in here. It says James 5:5. Ye have lived in pleasure on earth, ye have been wanton, ye have nourished your hearts as in the days of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. You see. So let's look up this word really quick in here. Spataleo.
Strong's G 4684. Spatalao. Spatalao.
Right? To live luxuriously, lead a voluptuous life, give oneself to pleasure. You see? And how do you practice those things? By making sure that you're mindful of the Sabbath, right? That's one of the many ways, right? Fasting helps. The Lord gave us these tools, man, and we gotta learn how to tap into them. We have to learn how to tap into them as best we can. Let me go to this last scripture here. This one. 2 Peter 2:14. Let me see. I'll start at 13. It says, I'll start at 12. It says, but these as natural brute beasts, right, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption, and shall receive the reward of unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. Spots they are, and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you, having eyes full of adultery, and that cannot cease from sin. You see that? It cannot cease from sin, meaning they can't even control themselves, right? Beguiling unstable souls, in heart they have exercised with covetous practices, right? So that stuck out to me, right? Because I read this book, and in it said, you're always training. You're always training, whether it be training for bad habits or good. You're always training. If you're sitting on the couch and you eat potato chips, you're training. You're training yourself to be lazy, right? If you're getting up, right? Like me, I have this this desk at my job where I can lift it up and stand up and do my work, right? That's you're training yourself to be active, right? In some way, in some capacity, right? So you're always training, whether it be to be lazy or be active or be lethargic or sluggish or lazy or to be productive, right? You're always training. So you have to be mindful that you're training yourself to do the proper things, right? So let's go up in these words. Exercise, right? It says, let me play it. Actually,
Strong's G 1128. Gumnadzo.
Right? To exercise naked in a playstra or school of athletics. To exercise vigorously in any way, either the body or the mind. You see? Right? So we know we're not it's not speaking of, exercising naked, right? It's talking about this, right? Because when you go back to the scripture itself, it tells you, right, exercise with covetous practices. When you covet something, that's something in your mind, right? So we know it's not talking about, nakedness, right? But I wanted to look up this word practices too, see what that says. Covetous practices. Pleonexia.
Strong's G 4124. Pleonoxia.
All right, look, boom. Greedy desire to have more. Covetousness, avarice. What's this? Never heard this word before. Extreme greed for wealth or material gain, right? Yep. You see. So if you are exercising or training or practicing in, let me see what word it uses in this scripture here. In a heart, right? A heart that they have exercised with covetous practices, right? So if you're exercising to be covetous, right? If you're always wanting to be, you look at somebody's house and you say, "Damn, I want that house." And you say, or if you look at somebody's girl and say, "Damn, I want that girl," then that's the person you're going to be because you're exercising yourself in that, right? So again, use the Sabbath, man, as it's a tool that the Lord has provided us with to, at the end of the week, to get back focused and start disciplining ourselves, right? So hopefully that was edifying. I want to give all praises to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai B'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who rule well, and honor and salutations to those of you who are of the hopeful elect. With that, I say Shalom.